is the healer. He is the great physician. And I've heard it said before that when God closes a door, when it looks like there's no way out, there's always a window that's open. So, folks, we can't give up. We cannot give up because we know that Jesus, if he healed folks back in his day when he was walking this earth, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And he can still work miracles in today's society. He can still heal people today. I tell you, for a little bit I could get started with another sermon. But I was thinking this week about some of the things that we've run into throughout our lives, and I call this one Be Careful Little Eyes. There's a song that says, be careful little eyes what you see. And another verse says, be careful little ears what you hear. But my verse tonight is coming out of Matthew 16, verses 11 and 12. Matthew 16, 11 and 12. Okay. How is that you do not understand that I speak not to you concerning bread, that you should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees? Then understood they how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Like I said, about that little song, be careful what you hear. There's a lot of things out there, a lot of people, they might mean well, but their doctrine, some of the things that they're teaching is deceptive. You know, we've talked before about the TV preachers and the radio preachers, how they, seem like all of them, it's got their own agenda, or a lot of them's got their own agenda. There might still be some good ones out there, but a lot of them have their own agenda. And they're trying to sell you something. Or I remember years ago there was a guy on TV that he was one of those faith healers. And this has been years ago, and me and Mama, and I think my sister was in on this, we went down to see this guy. He was I think it was down at Boutwell Auditorium at the time. And I learned real quick about something. He's like, gimme, gimme, gimme. And if you won't give me, I'll sell you some stuff. And it turns out that the guy, he was basically a shaman. He was basically one of those that try to pull a con job on folks. But I remember I would sit and listen to his program week after week after week until I found out the truth about the man. And it's not just TV preachers, even to our local station. I was hearing something the other day. This guy was on the radio and he was talking, and he said something that just made me bow up and stop. I'm like, wait a minute. He was talking about how that once you get saved, if God will be with you, and if you do something really bad, he'll take you out before you do something really, extremely bad. He'll kill you before and take you on to heaven. I'm like, I don't think that's quite the way things work. But that's some of the doctrine that people will try to put forth and try to make you believe. And me and Marlene were coming to church this past Sunday, and there was a guy on the radio, and he says something about that he was one of the, one of the called out or something. He was one of the chosen, but not everyone is chosen. I'm like, well, Marlene says, wait a minute, everybody gets a chance. Everybody gets a chance. Everybody may not take that chance. Everybody may not accept Jesus, but everybody has a chance. So you have to be real careful, folks, what you listen to. You have to be real careful. I'm starting to understand now why the guy that was doing our revival, when he was talking about, I think he said his dad says, when I retire, I'm going to listen to the radio and I'm going to get a lot of good preaching in. And then the next thing he calls his dad, says, I turned off the radio. Yep. I'm starting to understand that. I am starting to understand that because there's a lot of false doctrines out there. And if you're not careful, you'll fall into them. It even comes to folks that you might meet on the street. Or there used to be a group of folks that would come by and knock on your door. And they would have these little pamphlets that they wanted to come in and talk to you. Hadn't seen them in a while. But I think I got rid of them for good. One day, it was so funny. I'd just come back from the doctor. I was feeling bad. I was feeling really bad. Hello, how are you today? Can we talk? I said, how are you? I says, I just got back from the doctor. I am sick. They ain't been back. But you have to be real careful. You have to be real careful. And I remember walking down the street one day, and these, I think they were Mormons, stopped me on the street right there on the main street of Leeds, and they wanted to talk. You know, sometimes all you can say is, I don't agree with your doctrine. I don't agree with what you got to say. But, you know, I appreciate the fact that you got so much spunk that you come out and try to, and I wish a lot of Christians were like that. I wish Christians, Bible-believing Christians, I wish that Bible-believing Christians would have the oomph to get out and just say, you know, when they run into somebody, do you know Jesus? I'm scared. I don't want to offend somebody. Jesus didn't mind offending folks. Call them hypocrites. Call them snakes. Jesus didn't mind offending folks. I remember too, and this is a sad situation. I'm thinking I was still working at the library, and there was this guy came in with his family, and they looked pitiful. They were dressed in old, shabby clothes. Looked like the kids hadn't been fed nutritious food in a while. And I'm like, what's going on with these folks? You know what? Turns out that he was one of the ones, he believed that you're supposed to sell all your stuff and give it to the poor. But they look poor themselves. What does the Bible say? If you don't take care of your family, you're worse than an infidel. The way I understand it, the police, he was standing on the corner screaming out at folks until the police had to come and just say, man, you need to move on down the road. But that's sad how folks will just fall in to these strange ways of thinking. Strange. And they'll take just a particle of the Bible and try to make a doctrine out of it. It's sad, folks. It gets to the point where it's like a poison. You know how a snake comes and bites? And so it's like a poison. It poisons the soul. It causes discouragement. One thing it causes discouragement. Because if you're not careful, the things that you hear will mess your world up. That's my second one. It'll cause confusion. You know, you'll listen to this one, and you listen to this one, and you listen to this one, and the next thing you know, you don't know what you're supposed to believe. Instead of getting the Bible down and reading it for yourself and getting God's guidance, you'll listen to Billy Bob and Susie and this and this one, and the next thing you know, you don't know what to believe. And then you get enough of that poison in your system, it'll kill you spiritually. It'll kill you to the point where you give up on God, you give up on church, you'll even give up on yourself if you ain't careful. Because this poison that the devil puts out there, this poison, he'll get it in your system, and then he'll laugh his fool head off at you. Look what I done. Look at you. He'll take you out on a limb, cut that limb out from under you, and then laugh his fool head off at you. And then when he gets you where he wants you, he'll claim you. You don't want him to claim you. You don't want him to claim you because the Bible says it's better for you not to know the Bible at all than to know what's going on and turn your back on it. A lot of folks have been taught when they were young the right way. But when they get older, they'll start listening to all this mess. You know, I start thinking about this guy that I've told you that I grew up with. He knows the right way. He was taught when he was a youngster the right way. I was sitting in church with him, so I know he was taught the right way. And when you invite him to church, I ain't never going back to church again in my life. I'm just going to live my life, and then whatever happens, happens. He knows what's going to happen at the end. He's been taught what's going to happen at the end. But it's sad when you realize there's folks out there that's got so much of this poison in their system that the devil's injected that they just don't care no more. It's a sad situation. But we need to make sure, folks, we need to make sure that we don't fall into these little traps that the devil sets, because he's going to set traps. He will set these traps like a bear trap. You step in that bear trap, and you're caught. That's like when the devil gets a hold of you. But folks, there is a solution. If we realize that we've stepped into some of those traps, there is a solution. We need to come back to Jesus. Amen. Tell Jesus, God, I messed up. I listened to the wrong stuff. God, restore to me the joy of my salvation. Like King David said, please restore to me the joy of my salvation. You know what? He'll pick you up. He'll dust you off. He'll bring you back into the fold. You know, like that prodigal son. He thought he was going to be Mr. Bad. I'm going to go out and do my own thing. Do my own thing. God, you know, Father, give me my share of the inheritance. And I'm going to go do my thing. Where'd his thing lead him? When he came to his right mind, he was down there with the hogs, eating the pig food, wallowing with the pigs. But when he realized that he'd been doing the wrong thing, when he'd been listening to the wrong stuff, he'd been listening to that little devil in his ear. Don't you want to do this? Won't you try this? When he realized that he was living in those pig pens, and he came to his right mind, he said, even my father's servants have it better than I do. So I'm going to go home, and I'm going to ask to be one of the servants. And he heads toward home. And he starts making up his apology story as he's going. But when the father sees him, he didn't have time. He didn't have an opportunity to tell this story that he had been working on probably for miles down the road. The father says, bring him back into the house, give him a fresh pair of shoes, give him a fresh set of clothes, and put a ring on his hand. You know what that ring is? Authority. Because, you know, the kings, when they stamp something with their ring, it's illegal. So when the father gave him the ring in the shoes and the clothing and fixed that fine meal for him, he had took him back into the family. And folks, if we start listening to all these crazy ideas, it could lead us into situations that we don't want to be in. But all we have to do is ask God to take us back into the family, and He will. Folks, that's what I got, what God gave me for tonight. And is there anyone here that needs to pray about anything? Anybody that, can you play that song that I was asking you about? I was asked Marlene to play this song, and I don't know that she'd ever heard it before. It's been years. But she's going to sing it, and while she's singing it, if anyone's got anything they want to pray about, come on down and talk to Jesus.
Y'all know it too. We just sang some of it. What key did I play it in? Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. For the Father up above what you see. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. For the